Welcome on into the Baseball Insiders. The World Series begins tonight. Game 1, Dodger Stadium, Los Angeles, California. I am Adam Weinrib, joined to preview the series and talk about what he's learned on the ground on a special Friday afternoon edition of the Baseball Insiders. Here is FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray. Robert, the game starts in 5.5 hours based on traffic. I assume to get there on time, you have to leave 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I'm going to end up being late for the World Series. I'll get there by about probably, I don't know, 9 p.m. So it's going to be absolutely crazy, but I cannot wait to get there. There's a lot that I've learned yesterday in talking to the players at Media Day. I had a very unique dinner last night with my guy, John Heyman. Ended up running into Wolfgang Puck, of all people. So that was very unique. Did not expect that, but it was a lovely dinner nonetheless. And here I am now talking to you on the Baseball Insiders. No place I'd rather be. Adam Weinrib, how you doing? Good luck to your Yankees tonight.
I'm good, thank you. And not me over here trying to figure out if Wolfgang Puck is a good omen or a bad omen. Certainly not what I'm doing right now. Thank you for joining us, everyone who's watching the show. If you want to join us between shows, a quick reminder at the top of the show that you can find us in the Discord. Robert and I will be answering your questions. Between shows, you can join at the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier for priority responses in the chat. Also, subscribe to the Moonshot, our weekly baseball email newsletter where the fan-sided MLB team, including Robert Murray, will break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. And before we get into our slightly more granular preview for Game 1 and for the rest of the series, it's that info we're after. So, like Robert said, he's in LA now. He'll be at Games 1 and 2. He was at Media Day yesterday. So, Robert, anything that you picked up on yesterday that you want to share? If you follow us on YouTube, you're seeing that there's a lot of great content already coming out of Robert's Media Day. Anything that you encountered, anything that changed your perspective on this series? Obviously, it's a lot of people just kind of being like, I'm excited. World Series is a big deal. But maybe something sort of, swayed you one direction or another.
No, I think it's the tremendous amount of respect that both teams have for one another. Everyone knows this is going to be a battle back and forth. This is not going to be by any means a runaway series by either team. And the star players are complimentary of each team. But I would say there's a few things that I picked up on yesterday that I thought were really interesting. But Luke Weaver, I was talking to him, and he was mentioning how he ended up studying Yoshinobu Yamamoto's his video and trying to change his windup or change his delivery last year during the offseason. And nobody really knew that he was trying to tinker with these because he was working on it in his garage, just in private, doing his thing. And obviously ended up signing with the Yankees, and then Yamamoto ended up going to the Dodgers. But he really ended up studying Yamamoto, and tweaked a lot of things with his delivery and with everything, and especially with his leg kick. And he credits that as one of the big reasons why he's had such a huge year in New York. And he's not only set himself up, he's probably going to end up having his option picked up for next year, but he set himself up for a potential, like a huge future payday for him. So that's a good job by him. I don't know how many other players studied Yamamoto by any means, but Luke Weaver was definitely one of them. It's not something I learned yesterday, but one of the things that I ended up wanting to end up hitting on was Kevin Kiermaier being left off of the Dodgers' World Series roster here. That was probably, that you can take the word probably, unless there's an injury. That's the end of his career, because he's made it abundantly clear that he's going to end up, this is his last year in baseball. He's going to retire after this, and then he's going to ride off into the sunset and do his thing there. So I think he's had one of the most underrated careers in baseball. He's been one of the most prolific defenders in center field for some time, both in Tampa, Toronto, and now in Los Angeles. So good job by him. Fantastic career. But yeah, I'm just fascinated to see how this series all plays out. It is going to be thrilling. It's going to be exciting. There is going to be a lot of drama back and forth. I don't have a good feel for it. I keep going. Originally I was at Dodgers in 6. I'm still kind of leaning that way, but I'm really unsure. I think this is genuinely a 50-50 World Series. And for considering how big of a series this is, especially on a global market, baseball is set up to just absolutely thrive off of this.
I hope it's a 50-50 World Series. I mean, I think that the Yankees have what looks like a distinct starting pitching advantage, but then you remember that the Dodgers, like a week ago, just plowed through 33 straight scoreless innings in the playoffs. So, either one of those things could manifest at the drop of a hat. The rosters are interesting because
Yeah.
Vesia back, no Kiermaier or Rojas back. No Evan Phillips. On the Yankee side, Nestor Cortez comes back, but they had foreshadowed that, so I don't think that was too surprising. But you lose John Birdie. They stick with Trent Grisham and take John Birdie off. Faith in Anthony Rizzo healing. Faith in Oswaldo Cabrera and Jason Dominguez as pinch runners. I get it. I mean, the Yankees didn't do anything too wild, but the Dodgers definitely made some big changes. I don't think any one of us expected Evan Phillips's arm fatigue to be disqualifying until suddenly it was.
Yeah, that kind of caught me off guard yesterday, or when it got released today too, because when I was talking to some Dodgers people, Dave Roberts and some others, they really kind of ended up pointing to how impactful these days off have been for them. They've been able to recharge, get healthy. I mean, Rojas is now at a point where he can play. Vesia is going to end up being a big addition for them, and I would expect him to end up matching up against Juan Soto a couple times in this series. So getting those guys back was huge, but losing Evan Phillips, that's a blow. And you got to wonder exactly how serious the injury is, because you would imagine if he was anywhere close to being able to pitch, he would have been active on this roster. So kind of wondering exactly what his injury might be and how serious it could be, but that is a blow for the Dodgers nonetheless. But I think one of the biggest and most important things for the Dodgers, actually, I would call this the most important thing. Let me just make it clear with that, is getting Freddie Freeman as much rest as possible over these last few days. He was really, really, really struggling in this last series and just as a postseason as a whole. And that injury, I don't know exactly the severity of it, but it is definitely more serious than the Dodgers have let it be known. He has done a lot of work both behind the scenes, pregame and postgame, in order to be able to play in the postseason here. So I give him a ton of credit. I am very curious when eventually the severity of that injury is going to come out. But he is a gamer, and I think he should be commended for playing through this, because I've talked to numerous people around the Dodgers, Kevin Kiermaier, Max Muncy, like you name it. And they have all pointed out just how much work he's put in behind the scenes in order to play, because it has not been easy, not easy at all.
Yeah, expect mound visits to even be 15%, 20% longer than they were last round, and try to give Freeman an additional blow and until the umpires come out and break things up. I mean, Freeman is someone I have high expectations for as someone who's been here before. Mookie Betts had a playoff monkey on his back entering I guess, midway through the DS, and then went and torched the Mets. And I don't think anyone's talking about a Mookie Betts playoff slump at this point. Aaron Judge homered twice in the CS2 off Emmanuel Clase once. So stars have been stars, at least as recently as the championship series, even if they began the division series at a disadvantage. I think it's, at this point, it feels like all of the superstars in this matchup are in a good spot, but piece by piece, sort of, which star do you expect to have the strongest performance on the national stage for either team?
Yeah, I think the boring answer and probably the right answer is going to be Shohei Ohtani, just because.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but I want to go with something a little bit more original. I've been going back and forth on this because there's so many different stars here. I'll go with Aaron Judge. That might even be different than what I have on the rundown here. I don't even remember what I put, but I'm going to go with Judge. And you saw all the criticism of how he was struggling so bad early in the postseason, and people were wondering, like, should we be concerned about Aaron Judge? No, you should not be concerned about Aaron Judge whatsoever. And yeah, I think this is going to end up being the postseason, or the world's. This is going to be the moment where he just really just puts the Yankees on his back and tries to lead them to a championship. And I mean, there would be no better way of him to do that, or a better time for him to do that, than right now. And you talk to people. I was talking to some Yankees guys at the game, or at the media day yesterday, and they all pointed to his leadership aspect and how calm he is, and how they just look at him and he is just the guy that controls the temperature in the room, basically, and nothing really phases him. And I think his leadership is going to be on full display. I think they're going to be absolutely ready to go. And this is not going to be an easy contest at all for the Dodgers in game one. I mean, for either team, I should say. It's just, we have so many star players. I think I said on the last show, and I'll say it again, especially on offense, this is kind of like we're playing in an all-star game. It is remarkable. It's going to be awesome. Star power is going to be on full display, and I expect Aaron Judge to really step up and put the Yankees under the back.
So then I think the next question is, I think we all expect big things out of the Stars, and they all had moments during these runs to the World Series that further emphasize that. So there are very few questions. Like, no one's like, Aaron Judge just can't do it. We saw him do it against Hunter Gaddis and Emmanuel Clase. Like, we know he can't. So the question is, will he in a small sample? You hope. It looks like that right field bullpen wall is reinforced. Susan Waldman was kicking it the other day, so that's good. It does look like that's going to hold up. Yeah, good for everybody involved. But what about the non-stars? Because I definitely have – I mean, I think Luke Weaver is becoming a star at this point in time. But in terms of the more forgotten players, I have a couple in mind that I'm pegging as X factors in this thing. But anybody catch your eye, or anybody you spoke to yesterday where you were like, oh, this guy's locked in? Like, I don't know. I didn't expect much, but yeah, he's feeling it.
Does it count as forgotten? This is definitely not a forgotten about player, because I'm going to get ripped for this.
I mean, look, nobody's truly forgotten about on a World Series roster.
Yeah.
There's no Shea Hillenbrand isn't coming out of retirement playing for the Yankees, but there's some, well, not yet. Injury replacement, who knows? But I mean, right now we know these guys, but there's some guys who get a little bit of less shine.
Okay, I'm gonna go with one who is definitely not forgotten about, and I'm gonna go with another guy who is totally forgotten about, because it's just I'm gonna put it on the record because I had a gut feel, but I'm gonna start with Kike Hernandez. I think he is going to be a guy who absolutely steps up here and has a key moment or two in this series. I mean, if you would have asked me before last series, I would have said Tommy Edman, but now I think everybody is very aware of Tommy Edman after what he ended up doing in the NLCS. So I'll go with Kike Hernandez, but I'm going to go. And Yankees fans are going to have a field day with this one. I'm going with Trent Grisham. I'm going totally off of vibes. So yesterday during media day, I watched hundreds of people surround Juan Soto. I watched hundreds of people surround Aaron Judge. There was not a single person around Trent Grisham. He was just sitting there, sitting on his phone, and nobody was talking to him. And I felt terrible because I got to know Trent a little bit when I was with the Brewers and covering him. I was there for his major league debut and I got to know him, so I said hello. But he is definitely someone who is forgotten about. And if he ends up having a key moment in this series after being the guy that nobody wanted to talk to, I mean, it would be kind of storybook, wouldn't it? So I'm putting that into the air. Maybe he doesn't even get an at-bat. Maybe he does not even have one of his moments. I don't know, but I wanted to put that into the air that I am absolutely rooting for Trent Grisham to have a moment in this series. And Gresham 5, I hope you are having some Gresham 5 time this weekend as well. It is always good to hear from you, my friend.
Trent Grisham 5. Yeah, I mean, you're right. The comments are mentioning that there was a Trent Grisham Dodgers moment during the regular season where everybody wanted Soto. Juan Soto did not play in the 3-game series that these two teams played earlier in the year. He did not miss much time this year, but he missed that series. And people were chanting for a Soto pinch hit opportunity in the 3rd game. The Yankees had lost the first 2, and Grisham hit a huge home run in a game the Yankees did not win by much. It was the difference. So I'm into it. But again, no postseason run for Trent Grisham at all. The only time I saw him so far was in the background of a celebration shot. I'm pretty sure he was smoking a blunt. And if that's the sum total of his cameos in the playoffs, and fine, pretty fun. But I'm into it. Look, he's a lightning rod. He actually had great numbers for a pretty significant stretch of this summer. And right when the Yankees needed somebody to do something, 2 outs in the 9th, tying run at second at Fenway Park, Trent Grisham hit a double off the Green Monster that really moved them back into, where they helped lock them in for a more standard August and a much better September. So weirdly, if you're picking moments in time when the Yankee season shifted, you can pick that Trent Grisham homer. I want to just tune everyone's attention to Oswaldo Cabrera. Someone who I believe is a genuine X factor in this series. I think Anthony Rizzo feels better with every round and is going to be starting every game at first base, but they keep Cabrera on the bench in reserve so that he can fill in wherever is needed. Defense in the outfield. Let's say you pinch hit for Verdugo at some point. You could put him in left field. You could put him at first base. You could pinch run him. No matter who you pinch run him for, you can find a spot on the infield for him. He came in for defense for Gleyber Torres late. in one of the CS games, and he has a flair for the dramatic. He's got a little more power than I think most people expect. So he's my Yankee guy. And then I was on a Dodgers podcast earlier this week. They wanted to tune our attention to Alex Vesia, and I get it. But they were like, Vesia will be a Juan Soto stopper. And I don't know if he will be. I know Juan Soto hit 278 with a 416 OBP and 966 OPS in 226 plate appearances against lefties this year. That's pretty substantial. So I think I'm not saying Vesia is going to be fantastic, but I'm saying Vesia is either going to be in a position to shut down Juan Soto in a crucial point of the series, or is going to get worked by Juan Soto in a crucial point of the series. Either way, those two will face off with an opportunity to change this series.
You're absolutely right. And I don't know if there is such a thing as a Juan Soto stopper. I understand why Dodgers fans will be thinking that, but I mean, Juan Soto is Juan Soto. And I know I see obviously a burner say that he's 0 for 4 against Vesia. I mean, that's fine.
I guess let's book it. We're done. We're
done.
Yeah,
he's toast. Yeah. Oh yeah. But Juan Soto is he's going to be Juan Soto in this series. And I fully expect him to he's going to do what Juan Soto does. He's going to have huge moments. He's going to put up some big numbers. I think he's going to end up doing some really great things here. I don't think there's going to be anyone who's a Juan Soto stopper. I think if anything, we're going to end up hearing more Yankees players talk at the end of the series about wanting Juan Soto back. I mean, we heard all these guys say that $700 million or whatever. It's not going to get to $700 million, but if all goes well in this series, maybe that number could turn into starting with a 6. Who knows? I still think it's more likely to start with a 5. But Juan Soto is going to be a very, very, very rich man. And I don't expect Alex Vesia or anyone really to be a Juan Soto stopper.
Well, if it starts with a 5, I'll tell you who has no excuse not to make it happen, and that is the New York Yankees. If it starts with a 6, you can have some trepidation. But if it starts with a 5, you got to be in the 5s, guys. So sorry, Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah, and I also, speaking of this, I'm right there with you on that. I think they have, especially if it starts with a 5, they have no excuse to not go out and sign Juan Soto. But if you can end up having, there's going to be plenty of competition here. Like the Mets are obviously going to be very involved. There's going to be plenty of other teams that are involved. I still think the Toronto Blue Jays could be a sneaky team because we ended up seeing them last year. They were aggressive after, like Shohei Ohtani, and we remember all the reporting that went on with that. There was no flights to Toronto. That was never the case. But yeah, and that is a Zach Bryan shirt, by the way, Andrew. Yeah. That's a good eye by you.
Yeah, it's backwards Zach Bryan shirt. Shohei Ohtani, there was certainly talk about him going to Canada, but what's that in the USA national anthem? Ose Kenyu Morosi. He eventually went to.
I'm biting my tongue.
Let's move along. Right before we get into final predictions, Dave Roberts, Aaron Boone, USC for Boone, UCLA for Dave Roberts. I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like there's more beef here than just Yankees Red Sox 03-04. Boone obviously homered to send the 03 Yankees to the World Series. Dave Roberts' steal helped catalyze the 04 Red Sox. If you're a Red Sox fan, you don't want to watch this World Series, you can watch the comeback on Netflix. I heard it's got plenty of stuff you might enjoy. But it does seem like there's a little bit of UCLA, USC stuff. Roberts said they weren't very close back in college. Boone said, USC Trojan for life, Bruin last 4 years or whatever. It's getting kind of fun. I don't know if you picked up on any of that stuff yesterday.
Oh, it was a blast. It all went down as soon as I ended up getting to the ballpark yesterday. And hearing Boone say that, and then Dave Roberts ended up getting asked about it later. And then Garrett Cole was asked about it. He was like, I don't always agree with Aaron Boone and what he says. I thought it was really funny. And then Boone also revealed that as soon as they ended up landing over here in LA, that he ended up texting Dave Roberts a New York Yankees emoji. Mm-hmm. And Roberts immediately, when he was asked about that, said that he wanted to respond with a middle finger emoji, which he did not do that. He ended up saying a crying laughter emoji. But those two have definitely been trash talking each other, but it's all in really good fun. You can tell that those guys have really good relationships. And it seems like it's like throughout each organization as well. Because when I was in the press box yesterday, I ended up watching Andrew Friedman and Brian Cashman. They were just chopping it up on the field for a good 30 minutes or so. So it's a lot of good relationships there up and down, but you can definitely tell the UCLA versus USC beef is totally real. And I don't think that's going to have a factor in this series, but I think it's going to, yeah, they've got a long lasting rivalry in terms of their college programs. That is for certain.
We got a Bruin on the mound tonight against a native Angelino and Garrett Cole and Jack Flaherty. Final thoughts on the series before we sign off. We'll see everybody again on Monday after games 1 and 2 when we're getting ready to head back to Yankee Stadium. But you said earlier you can't get away from Dodgers in 6. I assume that's kind of where you're landing right now.
I'm sticking with Dodgers in 6. I got to follow my initial instinct because, whenever I overthink things, it turns out to be not true. So I'm sticking with Dodgers in 6. I think the Dodgers pull it off. I think Shohei Ohtani is a World Series champion in his first year in LA. Well, first year with the Dodgers. I mean, one of many years in LA. Well, Anaheim. I don't know if that's technically considered LA.
Tough to parse that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going with Dodgers in 6. What do you got, Adam?
I got Dodgers in 6 too, and I know that's not what anybody wants to hear. Like, they want us to be a little differentiated, but I am seeing a lot of Yankees or Dodgers in 7. I saw 63% of the Athletic writers pick the Yankees in this series. I think the Yankees could win this series, but I think the Dodgers lineup is more. I think Luis Severino said a couple months ago the Yankees have 2 good hitters. That's no longer true, but you got some outlier performances out of the bottom of that order in the ALCS. Yeah. They were able to work the Guardians bullpen to the bone. The Guardians bullpen had also been overworked all year. The Dodgers get a fresh Gratterall and fresh Vesia back. It doesn't feel to me, I could see the Yankees winning this series. The last couple of years when the Yankees have matched up with the Astros in the postseason, I've just kind of been like, well, they're not going to beat that team. They never do. And then they don't. I'm not getting the same feeling from this. I think it's completely reasonable that the Yankees could win this World Series, but first time for many of these folks, I just think the Dodgers get a few more breaks and the home field really matters.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And Braden, I think that's how you pronounce your name. Go Birds. I do know ball. So no Dodgers bias on this podcast either. There's no bias towards any team other than the Philadelphia Eagles.
No. If there was bias on this podcast, I mean, we all know where the bias would go. I mean,
no, you're not wrong. Go towards the Eagles and go toward Biscuit.
Mr. B. Yeah. I got a Joe DiMaggio jersey and a winter cap with a Yankee logo to change into as soon as this podcast is over. But I've got the Dodgers in the series. We will see, though. We will see everybody back here 3:30 Eastern time. This was an atypical showtime today because we got to get Robert to the ballpark. But for games before the Yankee Stadium games, before games 3 through 5, we'll be back on the show to recap what happened over the weekend and talk about what's next. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Robert, we have some questions in the comments about getting Baseball Insiders merch. I mean, yeah, bug us in the comment section. Let's get some merch. We're going to keep the show moving all offseason, and I'm excited to do it.
I'm very excited to do it as well. Baseball Insiders merch would be very cool. I can confidently say I'm in position to break some pretty significant stories in the offseason, and I would highly recommend staying tuned to the show here. I feel very good about the amount of news I'll be breaking this offseason, and I will be delivering as much of it as possible on this show. In the Discord, I'll be infinitely more active in the Discord during the offseason. You guys will be getting all the inside scoops. People who were in there during the trade deadline know exactly how active I was in there and revealing stuff even before I reported it. So I could not recommend more joining that. Drew, I will not be canned. You are sound asleep. I do know that. That is my first scoop of the year, is that Drew was sleeping. But yeah, no, nope, it is not Drew. I'm sorry. Your Preller is sound asleep. So, but yeah, we'll have plenty of information. We got the World Series coming up now. We'll be live from LA doing my thing there. Adam, I appreciate you. Everyone in the comments, I appreciate you. Joanne, our lovely producer, we appreciate you. Adam, good show today, my friend.
Good show today. Thanks for sticking it out live from Los Angeles, California. You can see the beautiful vistas of Hollywood behind Robert on today's show. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll see y'all on Monday. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.